All right, welcome folks. For many, building a fire in the wintertime is a way of life. But for others, it might be because you have a power outage, or perhaps you're up at a cabin at a ski resort and you want to get a nice cozy fire going for the night. Whatever the case, I want to show you how to build a fire quickly and efficiently and keep it going all night. I'm here in my shop and it's getting that time of year where I want to keep the shop nice and warm. So I got the Fisher stove here. And to build a fire, there's a few things that you should know. You want to have a nice bed of ash or sand at the bottom of your wood stove. This is going to insulate the bottom of the fire, and this is going to ensure that you have a nice fire going. So don't remove all the ash if you have some ash in the wood stove. Keep that in there. All right, now I'm going to go over the different materials that I like to use to build the fire. All right, it is very important that you have the right material for starting a fire. Now, first off, I like to start with some crumpled up newspaper. Now, here's our first stage of wood. This is some thinly chopped wood. This is made out of just some old 2x6 that I have. If you don't have some old 2x6 or construction material around, you can make your own out of some cedar logs, like I'm doing right here with this fro, and just splitting some cedar into some kindling, and that is really good. Depending on what part of the country you're in, you're gonna have different types of wood. But first off, right, we want some small, very dry, kindling type wood. That's almost like our tinder there, the newspaper and the kindling. And then we move up to some larger pieces. I have lots of construction debris around. I'm always making wood stuff. You can gather this kind of stuff from a woodworker or a sawmill if you have that local. If you don't, you can always cut up small branches. Here's some cedar branches that I have, and that works well. And then we're moving up to larger pieces of wood, like 2x6s, 2x4s, just kind of common construction framing debris. And then we get to our logs here. Here's our split cordwood, right? I like to move up to, pieces about this size. And then we start moving up to our bigger pieces, right? And then, after the coals get established in the fire, you can start throwing on your big Yule logs. All right, if we look at the fire triangle, the three things that we need to have a successful fire is oxygen, heat, and fuel. So I'm going to build this fire so all those things work together perfectly. All right, so the first layer I'm going to start with is these two big logs. So I'm going to put this one right here on the side, and then I'm going to add this log right here on this side. And what this is doing, it's a nice little spot to channel oxygen in there and also to trap some heat right in the center. So next, I'm going to go for our newspaper, put the crumpled up newspaper. You don't want it too tightly crumpled. You want air in there. You want that oxygen. That's a key element in building the fire. So sometimes I'll go 1, 2, 3 pieces of newspaper. Then we have our small pieces of very dry kindling. I lay some of those right on top of the newspaper. I look for pieces that I know are just going to catch up instantly, like these thin, stringy pieces. All right, and sometimes give these a little crisscross. We kind of want to be able to do this in one match. And then I start layering some thin pieces across the top, just like this. And I put some more of these pieces right across the top like that. And then I put another layer. It's a little bit of a log cabin build. And then I grab some slightly bigger pieces and keep layering this up, our little log cabin. And even putting a couple bigger pieces here on the top. All right, now it's time to light the fire. I'll strike a match. We'll light up this newspaper. Now, if you have a chimney that doesn't vent readily and you need to warm the chimney, you can light some newspaper and put it on the top. You can actually light this and put this up top, and that will warm the chimney and create a draft. Sometimes you even have to open a window in the house because nowadays houses are so tightly sealed that there's not a good draft. You want that draft to go up the chimney, pull the hot air up through the chimney. Now look how quickly this fire is going up. That kindling is so nice and dry. It's just readily gonna burn. And you see how we got this stacked. We got our two big logs here. Those are getting action right away. They're getting nice heat and fire. Those are gonna catch fire as this builds, and then we'll start loading on bigger pieces as this burns. It's amazing to think that us as human beings, we've been watching the dazzling lights of fire for hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, now as our fire burns down, and while we have a lot of heat going on here, we can start adding some bigger pieces. And you'll notice when I built the fire, I put some small spindly pieces going across the tops of these two logs. Those will burn out and the fire starts to fall down in between the logs. If you put some pieces that are too thick across the top, the fire doesn't fall down in between the two logs. Another great tool to have here on the wood stove, but this is on the pipe of the wood stove, is a little thermometer. It has a magnet on the back. I'll put a link in the description here to where you can buy this. And this is great. You can open and close the damper on the fireplace and keep your fire burning in between the 300 and 500 range. And this is great. This is how I regulate all my wood stoves, this one in the shop and the other one in the house. And so if it's getting too hot, I close the damper down. If it's not hot enough, I open the damper up a little bit more. It's good to have some nice fireplace tools, a nice poker. I really like this version here, this L-shaped one. I made a video in the past about how to make this poker log turner. You can see now as our fire burns, right, we want to make sure we get a nice bed of coals going on in between these two logs. So I just knock some of this down in between there with our fire poker, and I'll continue to lay some bigger pieces here on top. All right, for this video, I've been keeping the door open to show you what's going on with the fire, but usually I just crack the door a little bit while I'm getting the fire going. I'll open up the air inlets there, and having the door closed like that, that can keep more heat in there as long as you got enough oxygen feeding the fire. There's our fire triangle again, right? We got oxygen, heat, and fuel. So we want our oxygen to run through the center of those two logs. It can come right through these vents. We can open that up and have that go right up the chimney. Now don't be afraid right now to start adding some bigger pieces while the fire is nice and hot. All right, looking at our thermometer, we're just above 400 degrees, and this is an indication that your wood is burning nice and clean. If you looked up at your chimney, there shouldn't be a lot of smoke. This is a nice temperature for burning the wood if you have some nice, well-seasoned wood. All right, so now that we're at that temperature, I'll throw another log on. I'll close our door and I'll close down the dampers here a bit. All right, I can see our temperature gauge is hovering about 400 degrees. That is perfect. I'm regulating that with the dampers. Another nice tip is to get yourself a good pair of gloves. You can go to the welding section at your big box stores and get some welding gloves. Those are nice. They're a little bit longer if you got to reach in there and put some wood on the fire. A bellows. This is a good thing to have. Sometimes if you have some wet wood, it's hard starting. It's nice to have the bellows on there to pump some air in. Or if you've forgotten about the fire for a bit, you want to throw some kindling on there and get the fire going again, you can pump the bellows and get the fire up and roaring again. I just wanted to mention a word about safety, and it's a good rule of thumb to occasionally go up and look at your roof. Make sure there's not a big pile of leaves up there. Sometimes a little spark comes out the top of the chimney, lands in some leaves on the roof, and right, bad news, right? Also, I wanted to say I am in the great Pacific Northwest here, and I'm mostly burning Doug fir, hemlock, madrone, but other parts of the country, right? You got oak, you got hickory, you got ash. Those woods burn great. High BTU. Fir is some of the worst wood. It does put out some heat, but nothing like that oak or hickory or ash. All right, look at those nice coals burning there. Now we can start throwing on our big logs and get ready for that overnight burn. You want to put those big logs in there, close the door, turn the dampers down, and hopefully you get a nice overnight burn. All right, hopefully you found these tips useful and you're able to kick your feet up with a nice warm fire. Pull out a great book, just relax, do some reading, hang out with the cats. All right, oh, stay tuned for some bonus content here at the end that you and your family will enjoy. All right, right on. All right, here's just a fun thing to do with the family, maybe on the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. I threw in a couple packets of color flame, and the camera's picking it up a little bit. You're getting to see that blue flame, but there's all kinds of different colors in the logs there, and that's great to throw on a couple packets of those just to have some fun. Gather around the fire with the family like the old days before the internet, before YouTube, and just hang out and have some good old-fashioned fun. All right, I hope you guys are great, and I'll see you all soon.